Hello guys, welcome to my channel and welcome to Lego series for today. So Lego series, UDAA Lego series, the Know Your Right series is taking a new shape. We're no longer going to be having Zoom meetings monthly and inviting guests and speakers. We're going to be uploading videos on your rights, and we're going every week. So we're going to start with the fundamental human rights, introduction of the rights generally, and then we'll go down to the um, objectives and directive principles of state policy, and we'll talk about all of that. So we intend, what this series intend to do is to make everybody be aware of the rights they have. A lot has been happening in the country, and by the way, happy Democracy Day. A lot has been happening in the country, and it is important that we know our rights, we understand these rights, so that when things are happening, we know what they are happening, we know what is happening, we know why they're happening, and we know how to address what is happening. So even if we want to protest, we know what we're protesting, because there are a lot of people that don't really understand, they just follow the crowd. And it is also important to know your rights, so that when you're voting people into power, you know what to expect from them, you know what to demand from them. And we also have obligations to as citizens, and we're also going to talk about that. So but for today, we're going to be introducing the fundamental human rights. What is a right? It is that which a person has a just and valid claim. So if you have anything you have a just and valid claim over, it's your right. It may be your right to occupancy, that's to have, if you have a land, that is where you get the C of O, certificate of occupancy. So we're not talking about certificate of occupancy here. We're going to talk about, I'm just giving an example of what a right can be, where you have a claim. So you have this right of occupancy. So you should know that the certificate of occupancy is not that right. It's not what vests you with that right. Certificate of occupancy is just an evidence to show that you have a right to occupy that land, that you're the owner of the land. Okay, so that is what rights mean. So if anybody encroaches on that land, you can sue that person, and you can claim your land back and even claim damages. Okay, so examples of rights are legal rights, human rights. Legal rights, it is either the liberty of acting or refraining from acting in a particular manner, or the power of compelling a person to do or abstain from doing a particular thing. So right of occupancy is a legal right. So legal rights are different from human rights. Most of all the other rights are legal rights, but human rights are rights which all persons everywhere and at all time equally have by virtue of being human. So just by the fact that you're born today and you are a human being, you enjoy that right. Is inherent in you, in all human. As you're born into the world, you have that right. It cannot be taken away from you, and it is inherent in you because you are human. First of all, first and foremost, you're human. So it's different from legal rights. Legal rights could be claim to um, claim to your land. It could be claim to your car. So these are legal rights, but human rights, whether you have a car, a house, but the fact that you're human, your life is breathing, you have a human right. They are given to you at birth. They are what makes you human. Actually, if they're taken away from you, you're less a human, you're no longer a human. Without your human right, your life may not be worth living. It's more like being an animal or a thing, not a living thing, a thing, a non-living thing. In fact, if you remove them from any human, you'll be less human. Like Franz Fanon once said, he said, it is better to die on my feet than to live on my knees. So it's better for me to have my right to life, liberty. Okay, this reminds me of doing the slavery, the time of slavery, slave trade, when it was prominent back then. And people have life, but they don't have liberty, they don't have freedom. Their masters buy them and own them and decide what to do with them. So is it, to them, they're not living a life, because they're like um dogs. Like when you have a dog, you tell the dog what to do, you decide for the dog. But and I think that is what Fanon was trying to say here, that it's better to die standing than to. Your human rights are inalienable. What that means is that you cannot transfer it to anybody. No one can take it away from you, and you cannot even take it away from yourself. So not even the government can take your human rights from you. Not even your parents who gave birth to you can take your human rights from you. Not even you yourself, who own yourself, can take your human right from yourself. For example, the right to life. You cannot kill yourself. That is suicide. And if you do not succeed, then you'll be charged for committing suicide. You did not give your life to yourself, even though you're accountable to your life while you are alive. So therefore, you cannot take it away from yourself. The same way you cannot take someone else's life away from that person, because you didn't give that person life. So this reminds me of the famous saying that we lawyers had when we were in school: when one man's right ends, another man's right begin. So if you think about this, I'm sure you yourself wouldn't want anybody to take your life away from you or your human rights away from you. If you know about this rights, and you know that this right that you enjoy, other men, other human beings enjoy same, for the fact of them being human, you won't even want to, or you won't even think or contemplate taking someone else's life. It cannot be sold or transferred to anyone else. It belongs to you and you alone. You cannot transfer your liberty, your dignity. And sometimes I wonder how some people try to be inhuman to some people and degrade them, downgrade them so low, and by that taking away their dignity. We feel by just talking to somebody, we don't owe that person, we have not infringed on that person's rights. By talking to somebody in a manner that is degrading, you have actually infringed on that person's right, and you owe that person a duty to respect his right, because you also have that right, because the person is even human in the first place, regardless of the tribe, regardless of the nation, regardless of whether they're Africans or Americans, regardless of whether you're Nigerian or Ghanaian, regardless of whether you're Igbo, Yoruba or Hausa, regardless of whether you're rich or poor, you have this right, and you should respect that person's right. Respect your own right. You do not even have to downgrade yourself or degrade yourself or take away your dignity. Like some people that mutilate themselves, that is totally wrong. You are not supposed to do that, because it's against your human right. So you cannot transfer your human right to someone else. They are part of the human being, just as your hands and your legs. You cannot take them away. The government cannot take them away. Although there are exceptions to these human rights, like for the right to life, where you're being sentenced to death if you commit a crime, or right to liberty when you're being sentenced to some years in prison for committing a crime. We're going to get to all of that part, but for this series, we're just generally talking about the human rights. We want you to understand what this means. It is very important. If you understand, if every human being understand that we all have equal rights, the world will be peaceful. The chaos we're having in this country, we won't be seeing it. If you can respect the other person's right, the other person respects your rights in return. We'll all live peacefully. They are enforceable. You can sue to protect your rights. You can sue to enforce your rights. They're two different things. You can sue to protect it. So if somebody is trying to take your life, you can go to court to prevent the person for taking it from taking your life. You can sue to enforce your right. If somebody takes away your liberty, even if it's the government, you can sue to enforce it and say, give me freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. You can enforce it. I have the right to choose the religion I want, the association I want to belong to. You can go to court to enforce it. They are enshrined in chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution. All of those rights I have mentioned are all enshrined in chapter 4 of the Constitution. So they are guaranteed by the Constitution. The Constitution is the ground norm of the country, and we made it together, and we must respect it. It's like the Bible for Christians. It is our number one law. So if you are infringing on anybody's rights, including the government, even if it's the government that is infringing on those rights, they are going against the Constitution. Okay, so we have, for example, the rights, these human rights as listed in the Constitution are the right to life. You cannot take anybody's life, and no, you cannot even take your own life, and nobody should take your own life. You can sue to enforce this right. The right to dignity of human person. Everybody wants to feel good. Nobody wants to be called names in public. Everybody wants to be spoken to with pride. So you don't have the right to take that away from any other person. The right to personal liberty, freedom to move around, as long as you don't encroach into other people's space. Right to fair hearing. If you commit any crime, or you're accused of any crime, you must be heard before you are being sentenced to for that crime, before you are being convicted for that crime. Right to privacy. You have the right to your privacy. You have the right to your privacy. Nobody should invade your space, and anybody who does that should have to face the law, because it's infringing the Constitution in the first place, and your human rights. Second of all, right to freedom of expression. You have the right to say how you feel, as long as you're not telling lies, or as long as what you're saying doesn't hurt other people. If they are truth, even if it hurts the person, but it saves the country or it saves another man. For example, somebody planning or plotting to commit suicide comes to you and tell you he's planning to commit suicide. It's your duty to report that person, because the person doesn't have the right to take away his life. Right to freedom of assembly, association, and movement. So you can choose to belong to several association, any denomination, any church. You can decide to even, like the protests, join the protests. You have the right to that movement. The NSAS movement is a movement, as long as it doesn't lead to tyranny, anarchy, as long as it doesn't lead to dethroning the government. Right to freedom from discrimination, and not to be expropriated of property. Freedom from discrimination. We are all Nigerians, we are all humans, so we shouldn't discriminate against anybody. We shouldn't discriminate no matter who that person is. Everybody has the right to be who they are. I am black today and I choose to be white tomorrow. You shouldn't discriminate against me. I am beautiful today and I had an accident, I become ugly tomorrow. That doesn't mean I don't have the same rights that you have. The fact that I'm albino and you are normal doesn't mean that you have more rights that I have. No, we have equal rights. To end the session, I have to say that human rights are inherent rights to be enjoyed by all human beings of the global village, and not gifts to be withdrawn, withheld, or granted as someone's whim or will. This statement was made in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in February 2018. No, sorry, in February 1998. So please, as said in February 1998 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it is not within anybody's power, within anybody's whim, within anybody's will to allow you your rights. It is your gift. It is not a gift from anybody. It is your right. It is inherent in you. You have to enjoy it. So somebody making you enjoy your right, somebody respecting your right, is not giving you a gift. Is fulfilling the duty the person owes you. We all owe each other that duty to respect each other's rights, to honor each other, to love each other, and to respect each other's rights. And remember, like I said, where one man's right ends, another man's right begin. I have the right to life, and you have the right to freedom of assembly. And the fact that you're assembling in for the EndSARS protest should not infringe on my right to life. I have the right to freedom of expression, and you have the right to privacy. The fact that I am expressing myself doesn't mean I should infringe on your right to privacy. And I hope we all understand that. So for next week's episode, next week's Lego series, we're going to be talking about the fundamental objective of state policy. So don't forget to follow our channel. Don't forget to put on your notification for next week. Every week we'll be bringing you good civil rights. We are all entitled to know our rights, so that when it's being infringed on, we know when it's being infringed on, and we know how to enforce it. We know how to demand for it. Thank you. See you next week. And between now and next week, try not to infringe on someone's rights. Watch your actions. You never can tell. You may be infringing on somebody's rights, or even your own rights on yourself.